Well, welcome to another episode of Naked with Dr. Money. I am Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, known as Dr. Money, and every Wednesday I come to you sharing a little bit of the behind scenes look of how it is not only do I manage my mindset, motivations, and manifestations, but hopefully giving you tips to manage yours as well. Every day we go out into the world and we experience our respective journeys. And some of those days, I used to tell the guys, especially when I was actively building several development projects. And sometimes I'd have to go down to meet with building and safety because we might be dealing with permitting one of our projects. And sometimes, we get down to the city and it felt like I had my sword and I was going to slay the dragon, meaning I was going to get all of my approvals signed off on and be able to advance on my projects. Sometimes after a long day at the city, I would leave and it sort of felt like the dragon slayed me, right? And I'd go home and go, no worries, I'm going to regroup and I'll be back out tomorrow with my sword and see if I can slay the dragon tomorrow. And it was just kind of a way that I gave myself and encouraged my mindset to have the determination to keep pushing forward, irrespective of what a particular day might deliver. I found that approach to life to be helpful in many ways. Many things that I've developed, like it can't all be a one, because sometimes you have a stressful situation or you have multiple stressful situations that are all competing to be that number one thing that you feel that you have to address. Can't all be a one. You have to pick. Today, X is going to be a one. This is going to be 2, 3. Tomorrow might be different. And so by giving myself that space to sort of calm down and put things in perspective, that's been a bit of the winning formula along the journey. And I was telling a friend, we were having a conversation because, as many of you know, I've shared that I've launched a global organization. And as part of launching a global organization, we're in the acquisition phase, which means that I, like every other startup CEO, am on the process of raising capital. And so I said, I caught myself saying to someone that, oh my goodness, I was thinking that once the business is funded at the level of funding that I'm pursuing at this point, that then I become the CEO of the company. And then I realized the correction was no. Once you have formed the company and begun the process of that investment, you have become the CEO. The job of securing the capital, that's the job of the CEO. And you'll continue to have the responsibility for securing the capital. So needless to say, there are days that I feel like, man, I'm on the ropes. They have me on the ropes. And I told her, I said, what is it that they give boxers when they go away to the corner, after the end of the bell, you've just been slaughtered in the ring, and then you go and sit on your side and they give you some, I guess it's sniffing salt or something to wake you up, and then you get back out for the next round. Well, last week I felt like that. I felt like I definitely had gone to my corner and I felt like I was being, beat up a little bit, but I had to take some sniffing salts to get back out there and to keep it pushing. And so that's really what this conversation is about, is hopefully being able to share in a transparent form that, guess what? Some days are going to be difficult, but that shouldn't stop your vision towards being motivated and then ensuring that you produce the manifestations. I'm excited about my guest today. My guest, Stan Hebert, is a longtime friend, mentor, colleague. We kind of cover several buckets. He's living his best life in retirement after spending years contributing both as a senior executive in advertising. That's how we first met. He was my mentor very early on, an advisor and friend, and just, building a long relationship. And then he also ended his career as a senior administrator in the university system. So contributing to the well-being for some other young people, which is definitely something that I know he does well. And I'm sure there were many benefactors from his efforts to support their growth and development. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring into my conversation today my good friend, Stan Hebert. Hey, Stan, how you doing?
Dr. Money, good to see you. Good to be with you.
It's so nice to have you. It's like amazing just when I think back about the journey, huh? You never know. That's what they say. You never know when you meet someone, if it's for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Glad to
So
have you for a
true.
lifetime.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. When I think back on those days of nighttime business services and what made you such a special contributor to the agency at that time was that your business was willing to do the work during the time and in the format that we really needed. Nobody else was doing overnight transcriptions and working on manuscripts, and you came through and the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
It's amazing because, when I did have a chance to speak with Carol as well. I'm working on a book, and of course, I have to get you scheduled for your interview, where I'm actually paying homage to mentors and the importance and value of mentorship, the magnificence of mentors. And I think in that regard is oftentimes you don't know again who's going to cross your path and be willing to share their knowledge, their insights, and contribute towards your possibility. And when I started Night Type Business Services, it was really this idea that I had two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to start an event management company, but that was still an emerging field, which sort of, in a sense, makes me think of where I am right now in this career, in this wellness space. I've been eyeing this sector for about 15 years, but only now has it really began to take great shape. Well, great shape in $5.8 trillion worth of great shape, right? A very viable, thriving sector. But, about 15 years ago, when we were trying to push different opportunities, it just wasn't there just yet. And Night Type Business Services was sort of an answer for me in that I needed to free myself up from my day job so that I had the time to work on one, creating resources, but number two, to build my next business, which was going to occupy the event marketing space and ultimately become a full-fledged agency. And but I sort of feel like that same thing is that doing some of the training and coaching and having the business and commercial brokerage firm, but really while building out the real estate development opportunities in the hospitality space is definitely what I'm up to, right? Yeah.
You've always had a vision that was often bigger than many of us could see clearly when you initially would introduce us to it. And you also had persistence, where you would not let roadblocks, hurdles, or any other types of challenges prevent you from moving forward. And sometimes forward means making adjustments so that instead of aiming for that point that you had originally, you've adjusted your aiming point so that you will be moving forward in the direction that'll get you to a successful outcome, but maybe not the original way that you looked at it.
Yeah, I think
Along,
that's the thing that we learn about pivoting, right? And that's, I think, the thing that can be difficult is sometimes I think it was years later someone said to me, well, if you climb mountains, which I don't, but you don't just start at the bottom and climb straight to the top. You climb to a point and then you have to do what she described as a cheat back,
mm,
which appears to be going down or going parallel to ultimately go up to the next point higher. And I said, well, that really is a good analogy for me to hang on to, because that's truly what I felt like my journey has been. It's not just straight from the bottom to the top. There's some zigzags.
And you know what? Those zigs and zags are very important because along the way, you pick up new people, new information, new understandings. That is, if you are willing to pick those things up. They're all available whenever you have those twists and turns along the way.
It is true. It is true. And so that's why I thought this conversation, and it's so amazing because, again, I'm finding that it's a conversation that's being asked to happen in many corporate organizations, and that is about mindset. The last few years have created a lot of emotional trauma. We have now, for really, to me, the first time that I've seen it being discussed on a global level, the impact of post-traumatic stress disorder for those who have not served in the military. Typically, that was uh, more or less directed to someone that had served in war and experienced the horror and trauma of being at battle and in combat, and and the wounds that you retain from that experience. But literally, people who haven't been deployed because of the trauma from the global pandemic have found themselves suffering. And so organizations both trying to realign themselves with on-site workers from being remote workers, all of those different transitions, the merging of generational cohorts. You have boomers, you have Gen X's, you have Gen Z's, you have millennials. So you have a bunch of moving pieces happening in organizations, and all of those things together are creating a lot of stressors, mental stressors.
When you mentioned these traumas that occur, I remember reading a list that's prepared by a psychotherapist, and it talked about the top 10 or top 12 traumas that people experience and how difficult it is to have experienced some of those. And I know that you and I, if we were looking down that list, we could say, we won. We've got 5 of the top 5, or 6 of the top 10 already covering our bingo card. Not necessarily something that we are striving for, but it's true, and they do have an impact on us. One of the things that I would say is a big difference, I know in your case, is that although these traumas are real experiences and they do have an impact on you and on your life, you don't carry them as if they are your best Sunday duds that you want to keep with you forever, or that it's an heirloom. Uh, you don't have to travel with your traumas and keep them intact and memorialize them as if they were protected and precious resources. They're not. And I'm not a psychotherapist, so I cannot, I hope no one is taking this as a one fit solution that wipes away what could be an impact on people. But it's important that we recognize that as challenging as it was, it is something that has already occurred. It really did happen. And it becomes part of our past, but it doesn't determine who we are or where we're going to go.
So that's a perfect segue into really the topic of our conversation. So let me ask you what I normally ask my guests, and that is, as it relates to your mindset. Two things. It's a two-pronged question. One, I want to know when you first believed that you recognized that you had a particular mindset. And part two of that is, do you believe that your mindset is the result of your nature, how you were nurtured, or a little bit of both?
Hmm. The easier one, the second part of the question is, I think it's a little bit of both. And I'll touch on what I mean by that answer and trying to identify when I first recognized a mindset. I think I was pretty well into my adulthood when I really started to understand that there was such a thing as a mindset. Uh, I grew up in a era where there were still segregated neighborhoods. my neighborhood of all African American families was a portfolio of all working people in a variety of fields. And I don't think we recognized that we were segregated as much as we recognized that everybody looked like us.
Hmm.
And what was encouraging is that there really was that village feeling. And beyond my parents' urging, there were neighbors across the street and down the street who were all looking out for us as we were growing up. I considered that I was pretty much, maybe somewhere approaching average in terms of intellect, physical ability, things like that. And I recognized that there were those that were excelling, and I wanted to be like them. But at the time, I think as I look back on it, my mindset was that I will not be them. I am who I am, and I can appreciate the talents and the successes that others have, but I just have to be okay with just being me. And it wasn't until I started playing sports and getting into high school, we play all these playground games and we, have fun with it. And I realized when I got to high school that I was pretty good. I started to practice a little bit more, and then I made the team in junior varsity, and then I was trying out for the varsity and I didn't make the team. This was in football, by the way. And so wanted to I wanted to make the team.
Hmm.
And I worked hard and I did all the little things that I thought I should do and asked around about how I can get better, and uh, made the team and recognized that there's a lot of good people out there, really talented people. I even went on to play football in college, and I found even more talented people. And I started to slip into that old mindset of, oh, well, I guess I'm just me and I'll just have to admire the talents of other people. Somewhere along the way, my attitude changed, and I decided that no one will outwork me. No one will achieve better on the field just because they're more talented than me. But if they have outworked me, then I can go back and I can do more work. I never thought that there was any limit to the amount of things that I could do to prepare. And as a result, I believe I excelled. I didn't start to apply that in other parts of my life until a little bit later. And I think that's when I discovered that there was such a thing called a mindset, and what that can mean. So I think I was in graduate school when I first started to understand the world of mindsets.
It's so important because, and thank you, that's really a great illustration, because when you think about it, sometimes we feel like we're isolated when we're sort of evaluating what we believe we bring to the party, from our lens, but we don't have a true comparison until we're in a bigger collective to recognize, well, wait a second, I can hold my own in this particular group, and I could put some effort in. I could be motivated to do a little extra, to learn a little bit more, to develop some additional skills, and to allow my talents to flourish. That's that mindset that sometimes encourages one to, let's go ahead and give it a try. What do you have to lose? I think I say these days I've come to really appreciate sayings like, how one approaches, the glass. Is it half empty or half full? All of those little sayings that seem like different sayings now have a different meaning, with enough life both behind me, and then also what I say, enough life to aspire towards in front of me, right? And it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
still that same thing. How do I choose to assess where I am along the journey? Am I one of those folks who says, oh my goodness, I've heard people say, oh my goodness, I have less life in front of me than what I have behind me. And I'm like, well, I don't believe that. I think full life is 120 years and beyond. So I have way more in front of me that I've already lived, and I get to live it from this point forward with what it is I've already gained, right? And so it's like I just, I'm thinking like all I do is win, 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 no matter what. That's the mantra.
I tell you, it's tempting to play the what if game and to think about the choices you made if you'd made a different choice, choices you didn't make if you had actually had made a choice, and how things might have been different in your life. That can be a fun game if you're, you know, in that kind of a mood. Not a good place to live, um, because it really doesn't necessarily give you any insights on how you can grow in the future. Uh, I'm glad I didn't lose that whole attitude about working hard. And I was just thinking about when I was working with Carol Williams, and we were going after the California lottery account. She had gone after it before I joined the agency, but was not successful. This would have been the African American contract for the California State Lottery during its early days.
Mhm.
Um, in preparing for it, like I said, I wanted to outwork anybody. I would go to all the meetings. And I remember it was funny. I'm at one of the bidders conferences, and they always ask, "Are there any questions?" And nobody usually raises their hand. Well, I raised my hand from our little agency at the time and asked, "Can we play the lottery and receive winnings from the games?" And everybody bust out laughing, laughing at me for such a ridiculous question. And the person from the lottery said, "Yes, you can." I don't think that any of the other bidders, any of the other agencies really thought about it. We don't work for the lottery, so there's no law against or no regulation against us playing and winning. And so we encouraged our staff to get to know the games. And uh, just fast forward, we did get the account. And I remember when, because I was in New York at the time, that Carol found out that we got the account. She was really excited. We were talking over the phone. She goes, "We got the California lottery account." And I said, "Yes." She goes, "You don't sound excited." I said, "I was expecting us to. We put in the work. We had highest quality creative, and I was expecting us to get the account." And I was already off on the next adventure after that. Uh, but like I said, it's even when we don't succeed, or when I don't succeed in something that's more individual, because of all the work that I put into it, I still feel good because I know I put my very best into it, and I may discover more that I can do the next time I'm doing something like that. Um, I don't know if that fits into one of the mindset categories that I was studying, or at least I heard about when I was in grad school, but it's been a part of my attitude that I'm glad continues to this day.
Well, I think it's so essential. I- when we set examples, you've family, we're the models for folks that are closer to us, oftentimes paying attention. They hear what we say, but they really watch what we do. And I know that that has been a lot of the experience and the conversations that I have. Sterling, my son, is 27 now. Who knew, right? He's grown up.
27. 27.
Imagine that, 27. And and I everybody, I get it. Everybody loves their kids. I'm just like them too. But I think he's a special young man in many ways. I'm always hearing from other people how they interact with Sterling. And recently, he has started his first business where he's really seeing what it feels like to invest in a startup. He's launched a personal training business, and it wasn't originally his intention. He was literally working out to build his IG following to promote his music as a music producer and artist. And he started getting the followers, but they were watching him work out and looking at how beautiful his body was becoming, right? And so folks started DMing him going, man, you need, do you train? And Sterling, being Sterling, goes, well, I'm not going to offer something that I don't know what I'm doing. So he went to work for some big boxes, got all the various certifications, got the experience, and then decided to go into his own private business. And as he's going through this process, he's like, oh my goodness, but mom, I'm so glad that I was in so many workshops that you've taught. I've listened to so many things. In fact, he surprised me. I was a guest speaker yesterday for a core church out of Irvine. And I was doing an online presentation, and lo and behold, there's Sterling jumping in the class, and I didn't even know that he was gonna pop in. But the point being is that he's watched me launch and develop several businesses. He's watched me join other organizations and step in and help turn those companies around by contributing my talent, my vision. And he's watched me work very diligently, and sometimes under challenges. It hasn't always been an easy set of circumstances. I used to complain about that. Why do I always get the problem clients or the problems to solve? But I'm grateful now that I had all those early problems, because what it made me was a brilliant problem solver, right? But you only earn that, and just like he's saying, in working out, you only develop muscles by doing the work. You can watch me all you want, but if you're not doing the work, and if I'm not setting a clear example or giving clear guidance on how it's done, then it's hard to replicate, and produce similar outcomes. And so I think that that's also why mindset, motivations are so important, because then they do contribute to what it is you manifest. And it's never just what you manifest personally, because again, you don't realize that other people are watching you, and they're also attempting to use that as a guide for their own efforts, for their own potential outcomes. Irrespective of what hurdles may be presented on the front end. But what I love that you said about the California lottery experience in particular was that you had an expectation in terms of a certain outcome, and oftentimes that outcome is really about the mindset. If we begin with the expectation, what is it? Why are you doing all of these things? What is your expected outcome? What do you expect to manifest at the end of it? Are you holding on to that?
So true, so true. Hadn't thought about it from that angle. And your Sterling stories reminded me of when I transitioned from teaching a class in marketing at the university level to eventually becoming an administrator, how much I enjoyed being in a campus environment with these brilliant minds. And these brilliant minds not only included the faculty, but the students. It was such a wonderful environment to be in. And I learned so much especially from the students, because I would see more of them on a daily basis than I would of my colleagues on the faculty. But they have so many challenges, talents, experiences, and if we are willing to meet them where they currently are, they have the opportunity to not only share what they are learning and what they might need from us, uh, but at the same time, we'll know better how to support them along their journey. One of the biggest things that I learned from being in the university environment and looking back on it was 25 years of university experience, my accidental career into university administration. But what I learned is that we're not pouring education into an empty vessel. They are on a journey, and whether it's 4 or 6 or whatever many years, our job is to make sure that we remove the hurdles that may be in front of them and to give them what they need in order to get to that next leg in their life's journey. Sometimes that means leaving them alone, not interfering with the way that they're going about in their daily learning and living. And in other cases, it means just recognize, just watch them. And when they do have their challenges, you can be there to assist if they need it, and be there to congratulate them when they achieve it. And other cases, some of them need a little bit more help. And it's not so much that we, like me as an individual, it's all the resources that are available out there. There's some that are available through the universities, some that are available through the community, some that are available through the larger community, like the state, the county, the federal government, or it's understanding that they have peers that can be of great assistance to them. That's kind of like a big mouthful, but these are some of the things that I learned while I was in that university environment. I can learn a lot from my peers and my colleagues. I can learn a lot from those that may not be as old as I am. I can learn a lot from folks in any stage at any level if I'm willing.
And I think that that is a particular mindset, because I was speaking with someone else who was sort of talking about, what are some of the ingredients, the contributors towards longevity. And a lot of that has to do with both your brain health. Your brain health is, what are the things that you're taking on? What are the new things that you're curious about? I hope that my curiosity never is satisfied, that I continually look for new things to learn. I haven't gotten fully back up to my normal reading level that I had before law school. Still kind of unpacking the trauma of all of that. But no, I went straight into a startup. So that I didn't expect, but I'm grateful for the startup opportunity that presented itself right as I decided to, kind of play it safe and go ahead and knock out law school. But nonetheless, what I found as a happy medium is I've started to, some of the books that I would normally buy and read, I'm doing audiobooks, so that in between, while I'm doing research on my business or competitors or potential investors, I can be listening in the background on a particular book. And so recently I was listening to Charlie Munger's Almanac. Charlie being Warren Buffett's business partner. He passed, but he had a lot of commentary. And one of the big criticisms, sadly, is about some of the educational institutions and just the shortcomings in terms of educating the students. And I said, it's interesting. I found myself enjoying the opportunities that I had to teach. And I said, but I think it's because my mindset has always remained that I love both being a student and a teacher. And so because I'm a great student in the sense that I look forward to the opportunity to learn something new, to explore something, from that level of curiosity, then that too is what I bring to the table when I turn around and share what it is I believe that I've gained some insight on. But it's not that it's finished. It's that maybe I've created a hypothesis about what it is I think that I've learned. But let's go ahead and explore it together in a classroom environment and play with it and see what else, we collectively can create with that same information, therefore creating a space for learning and growing. And it's also the same thing that I've baked into the global organization that I'm creating. And it's like I've told the folks that are part of the leadership team, listen, ZenoVerse is going to be a learning organization. ZenoVerse is a learning organization. And so we will constantly have a place for innovation. We will constantly be encouraged to be innovators, to break things, and see if there's a better way to fix them, to deliver them, with our ultimate goal of helping people accomplish full life of 120 years and beyond by addressing their mind, body, and soul needs. And so it's having, again, creating these spaces. That's all I've done is really said, hey, I can create destinations around the world where people will travel. They get to have all kinds of fun based on all of the creative things that, we can bring forth. But at the same time, they're healing themselves. They're activating, rewiring their minds. They're getting their guts healthy. They're getting true insight from a physical trainer like a Sterling on what tweaks they can do to produce physical outcomes. And then lastly, they're becoming part of a tribe, a global tribe, a community of like-minded individuals that accept that we all have an assignment. I think that it's where we fulfill our ancestral assignments. I think we all have assignments of how we're supposed to contribute to humanity. And it's great to have a community of like-minded individuals to collaborate with. And so in essence, it's like I've created my own play environment to ensure that, for the next, oh my goodness, 80 plus years, that I have things to do.
And you're inviting everyone to your sandbox to play
I'm
along with
inviting
you.
everyone to that sandbox to play with me.
Here, you're willing to share your toys. That's very
Yes.
generous of you.
Yes, yes, and that's what I think it should be. So, what are some of the things, being in this space of, what does retirement look like and sound like to you? And is that kind of what you expected? What did you expect at this stage of the game? Uh, Based on mindset, motivations, manifestations? Are you where you thought you would be? Are there additional things that you're aiming for? Kind of where, yeah, give us a little bit of a glimpse through your lens at this point.
Retirement. It's everything that they told you about and more. Okay, now that I got my commercial out of the way, um, retirement is a challenge. Um, I don't think anyone really is ready for it. Um, I had been thinking about it because it's a calculation for many of us because we're looking at it from counting backwards, and that's at some point that may be where we fix our minds, and not that that's bad and not that that's good, but that's what we do, and we start saying, because that's what all the different commercials and those financial planners are saying, how much money will you need to live on in retirement? And we have this lifestyle in mind. I'm going to travel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And once you calculate all that, you start to see that, well, maybe I don't have enough money. So you start to think, well, I'm going to work a little longer. That that battle, that back and forth about lifestyle that I project and how much money will I need becomes the preoccupation for those that are looking at retirement dates. Um, I was lucky that I made a decision to retire that wasn't necessarily based on having everything all figured out. Uh, and I was at Cal State East Bay, and I announced my retirement, and I was excited about it. And we had a wonderful party, and the president of the university said that, was complimenting me on all these wonderful things, and I was really touched by what everyone said. And then he said afterwards, after the party was over, he said, "Have you turned in your paperwork yet?" I said, "No, no, no, I haven't." He goes, "See me in my office in the morning." He wanted to share with me an opportunity at another university. So I had a wonderful retirement party, and then I started working at another university, one of our sister campuses. And because I didn't file the papers, I didn't have to unretire. But it was quite an experience to, I mean, I hope nobody was mad at me for having such a great party and not really retiring. But I ended up leaving. So I guess it was a goodbye party. And in my new campus, I was so wise I didn't realize how wise I was, because all of the pressure that goes along with being in a new job or being in a new environment, I had none of that. I'd already retired and I already had a horizon that I wasn't necessarily focusing on. And I knew the job and I knew the university system, and I plunged into the new campus and got to know everything and everybody so well. I was enjoying it so much. Pandemic hits, and that changed a lot. Um, and it was during the pandemic, we all thought it was going to be 3 or 6 months long, right? As it continued to carry on, I ended up re-retiring or officially retiring uh, while we were still technically in the pandemic and all the challenges that go along with being in that kind of an environment. Not as much fun to have a retirement party during a pandemic, by the way. I wouldn't, don't suggest that for anyone. Have the real thing. Have a good one where you get a chance to thank those who've been a part of your journey. But in any case, um, I wasn't necessarily thinking about retirement as much as I was ending the job there. And now I'm eligible to all the things that go along with not being in that environment. So what did I do? I turn right around and I start working again. Not because I had to, I wanted to. And I was getting a chance to work with a very, very good friend and mentor to me and colleague, Carol Williams. And one of the things that I recognized in getting back into an environment that I used to know so well, but it had changed so much in the time that I had been away, that it was like being in a brand new environment, new terminology, new acronyms, uh, new ways of new technology for communications and the way that we develop and target and micro targeting and things like that. So I went back to school to learn all this. And just to bring it forward a little bit, so I'm no longer in the work mode. Look, if Carol ever needed me for anything, I'm there in a minute. And if, but between my volunteer activities, I still uh, find my activities that I always wanted to do, whether it was I'm in a tennis league, um, I get a chance to walk the dog. Imagine that. I look forward to that. Actually,
Imagine that.
the dog walks me. That's what really happens. But it's having the flexibility, and this is kind of on the serious side. Um, as family and community challenges arise, I find that I'm in a much better position to be of greater assistance and greater help because I have the flexibility of time, I have the resources to be of greater service, and I, um, I mean, these are challenges, so I'm not happy about the challenges, but I'm happy to be able to offer my services, my resources, and whatever wisdom I picked up along the way. And so my world of, and I'm using my quotation fingers, retirement is not the end of work. It shouldn't be the end of work as much as it can be for most a signal that you now get to change the way that financially you are able to take advantage of certain resources.
Mhm.
And you should be smart about all those things because at age 62, there's a certain resources. Age 63, there's certain resources. 67, 70, 73. There are different milestones where there are financial opportunities um, and decisions that must be made. The better you can prepare so that you are in the position to make the best decision for all of those opportunities, that's where you should be educated in the retirement world. But it's you don't stop working. Yes, I enjoy my hour and a half time in Starbucks, actually sipping the coffee as opposed to grab and go and rush off to my next activity. And being able to spend time with friends like Dr. Money and hear a little bit more about her exciting adventures and other friends. reconnecting with people that you might have, they were on that list where you would run into them and you say, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to get together. Okay. You're going to call me. I'm going to call you. A couple of years go by. Now you can just call them and say, hey, is it going to be breakfast, coffee, dinner, drinks? I'm just coming over. You can make that a part of your world. And in the retirement world, taking advantage of all those things is important. Of course, there's travel, but I admit that when I travel, I like to see people. Um, I think that, the whole bucket list, if I want to go to a place so that I can just tell somebody that I was there, that's not as big a motivator as being with people and possibly spending time in a different city, a different country, a different part of the world, and being among those who this is where they live and experiencing what that's like. That would be important to me versus just being in a particular geographic location.
I'm so glad you added that, because that seems to be the marker of why it is I'm doing what it is that I'm doing, is that people want experience. They don't want to just come in and, be generically exposed. They want to be involved. Our first location is on an organic farm. You get to walk out and pick, from the farm, part of what you're consuming. It's
All right.
truly farm to table. We like to say seeds to souls, right? So all of those experiences, yeah, and taking in the culture and all of those things while you're healing yourself. Anyway, all right. Well, Stan, thank you so much for joining me. See, I know you thought
My
Naked with Dr.
pleasure.
Money was different.
Love the title. Love the title. Yes, I was.
It wasn't hard at all. It was painless.
No,
Yes. I have a
a
few folks who are like,
pleasure.
how hard is it going to be? I'm like, it's not hard. It's an easy conversation. It's a coy way to catch up, right? And it's to share some ideals. So I hope you enjoyed sharing time with me today. I definitely enjoyed having you share time with me. If you were giving our listeners one last thought about mindset, motivations, or manifestations, what would you like them to hang on to until the next time?
Just to, there's that term that people say that live with purpose. Well, I say live on purpose. Make your movements, your activities, something that you are doing it the way that you want to do it for a particular reason, not, you know, do it because you want to do it. Do it on purpose, and don't let circumstances determine your future.
Absolutely. I think that is a very valuable nugget to hang on to. So, with that, again, I will thank you so much for joining me. I'll have to catch up with you again. I definitely want to talk to you more about ZenoVerse and some other things, but also to check in to see what else you're going to be up to as you
Who
continue this
knows?
fun journey of what retirement bucket may hold.
Who knows? I could join a band. I might be on tour next.
Be careful. You never know.
Never know.
All right. Well, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I appreciate you for being part of Naked with Dr. Money.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. So, everyone, again, if it is that this was your first time tuning in, I hope you'll join me again. Naked with Dr. Money is live every Wednesday at noon Pacific Daylight Time now. And it's basically my opportunity to share a little bit of what the journey looks like or feels like as a CEO of ZenoVerse Wellness Group, which is a global wellness organization where we have a portfolio of wellness resorts and organic farms opening in Jamaica starting in October of this year. So we'll have details about how you can book your wellness retreat so that you can address your mind, body, and soul well-being. Anyway, I hope to see you again next Wednesday, noon Pacific Daylight Time, live. I'll see you then. Take care.